lost in the waves now, taking me over, making me older, making me doubt what I say now. Monsters in my head, yeah, they keep on calling, never ending, till the moment you walked in.
Time travel in Saskatchewan? Join me as I step inside the Western Development Museum, where the early 1900s come back to life. Come on, let's go back in time together.
Keeping close to your energy.
We've just arrived at WDM Saskatoon, home to the Boomtown exhibit, where you can experience what life was like in a Saskatchewan town back in 1910. Before you even step inside, the Blairmore Ring greets you, a steel symbol of Saskatchewan's potash mining history. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, and Princess Margaret once walked through these halls? Hard to believe that the same floors we're walking on today were once graced by royalty. All right, let's take a look inside this building. Everywhere you turn, there's the smell of leather, the sound of creaking wood floors, and tools that once shaped the daily lives of farmers and travelers. Over here, you'll see sewing machines that stitched harnesses and saddles by hand. No fancy tech, just skill, patience, and craftsmanship. Here, every creak of the floor and sway of the lantern whispers stories from the past. Let's take a quiet moment inside St. Peter's Anglican Church, one of the town's timeless landmarks. Originally a schoolhouse, it was converted into this charming little church back in 1913. Let's head to our next stop. Stepping inside the General Merchants feels like entering a time capsule. I can't quite put into words the scent here. Maybe it's exactly what a shop smelled like back in the 1900s. The shelves overflow with tins, jars, and curious little treasures from another era. Everything from canned goods and oil lamps to old cash registers and glass candy jars. You can almost imagine townsfolk stopping by for their weekly supplies. Now this one definitely catches my eye. The Bank of Nova Scotia from the early 1900s. Inside, it's like time froze. These solid wooden counters and iron grills were all part of how banks operated back then. Very secure, very formal. Clerks used ledgers, fountain pens, and typewriters to record every single transaction. Can you imagine how much patience that took? And check this out, the old bank vault. This massive steel safe from the Winnipeg Safe Works once held the community's life savings, important documents, and maybe even gold coins. WDM Saskatoon also features a Saskatchewan story, which includes Meet the Worthies and a Sod House exhibit. I'm here now at the Boomtown train platform, and it feels like crossing into another century. Old milk cans, wooden crates, and luggage carts line the platform, as if a shipment's about to be loaded any minute now. And here it is, the star of the station, steam locomotive 2166. Beside it sits a horse-drawn farm wagon, packed with lanterns, trunks, and tools. I'm amazed at this next stop, a beautiful sod house. Soddies like this were built back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, when settlers used the very earth beneath their feet to create a home. Stepping inside feels like walking right into an old photograph, except it's real. Every item in here, the lamps, the cookware, the old jars, the handmade furniture, looks like it came straight out of that era. It's like time just paused and preserved this room exactly as it was. And honestly, it made me unexpectedly emotional. It brought back memories of my grandparents, their wooden furniture, the quiet simplicity, the warmth of a home that didn't need anything fancy to be complete. But beyond the nostalgia, there's also this profound beauty in the space. The walls are rough, but grounding. The light falls in so softly. Every object looks like it carries a story. It makes me think people then lived with less, but maybe they lived more closely to what mattered. I couldn't leave without visiting the Schoolhouse from 1910. Let's step inside and see what it looked like back then. The room is small, simple, and quiet, but it's full of stories. Wooden desks lined up in rows, and slate chalkboards covered in handwriting. On the chalkboard, it says March 28, 1910. Such a specific moment in time that it almost feels like someone just stepped out and will be right back. Like we're not looking at an exhibit, but peeking into someone's ordinary Monday in 1910. On the wall, there's a map of North America, and even a portrait of King Edward. And over here, look at this old cast iron stove, the kind that heated almost everything, the room, the water, and even their meals. And here's another place inside Boomtown that honestly surprised me, the funeral home. At first, I was scared to step inside alone. But the moment I walked in, the atmosphere shifted. It's quiet and somehow very respectful. The room feels suspended in time. Intimate, calm, and solemn. There's a wooden casket on display, polished and classic. Everything looks simple and modest, exactly how things might have been prepared back in the early 1900s. Let's do a quick stop at Wingley Laundry. Right away, you'll notice the big galvanized wash tubs, one on a stool and one that would have been heated over a stove. Beside them is a hand-cranked wringer, the kind where you had to manually squeeze the water out of every piece of clothing. There are heavy flat irons that once sat directly on the stove, and special fluting irons used for ruffles and pleats. Some tools sit quietly on the shelves, completely vanished from the modern world. Next up, one of the most fascinating shops in Boomtown, the vintage drugstore. The moment you walk in, you're surrounded by tall wooden cabinets, tiny drawers, and rows of old medicine bottles. Some clear, some amber, all with handwritten labels. I wish you could smell it right now. It lingers. You can really sense the aroma of herbs, powders, and old remedies in the air. Just the smell itself transported me back to the late 19th century. And speaking of time travel, let's head over to the clock and watch Repair Shop. As soon as I walk in, it feels like I'm surrounded by time itself. Hundreds of clocks line the walls. Tall case clocks, mantle clocks, travel clocks, all frozen at different hours. Like every one of them has a story to tell. Glass display cases are filled with pocket watches, tiny gears, springs, and tools only a watchmaker from 100 years ago would recognize. Standing in this room feels like pausing in a moment where time wasn't digital or disposable. Our last stop before lunch is the telephone operator's house. By 1910, telephones were already in use here in Saskatchewan. And in small towns, the switchboard was often right inside the operator's home. On display here are also items related to Nellie McClung, a well-known Western Canadian author and a strong voice for women's rights and social reform. WDM lets us experience stories from another time up close. And you can help keep this history alive by donating. If you're in Saskatchewan, make time for WDM Saskatoon. I truly loved every moment of this place.
When my sky is falling, you're